Welcome back to Questing Beast. I'm Ben, and today we're going to be looking at Hubris, a world of visceral adventure, which is a sword and sorcery campaign setting by Mike Evans. It is designed for the Dungeon Crawl Classics RPG. If you haven't seen my review of Dungeon Crawl Classics, which I made a couple years back, you can check it out right up here. DCC is an old school game, but it has a very maximalist take on old school role playing, whereas most old school games have a very minimalist take. Dungeon Crawl Classics has lots of random tables, is what it's most famous for, as well as its funky dice. It uses things like D3s, D7s, D14s, and a whole bunch of random dice that most gamers don't have, even if you have your normal collection of dice. And this is a supplement for it, and it just catalogs a setting that you can take parts of, or you can use all of, or you can hack to your heart's content. Now, the first thing you would notice about seeing this book is that it is huge. It is a good 340 pages long. It is thick. It is heavy. I got the hardback version here. And it's substantial. This thing is fun to just hold in your hands. You feel like you're holding a weighty tome, which it is. Some problems with the actual construction of it. I've noticed that my version, the cover is slightly skewed. You can see that there's more black down here and there's less up here, like the cover's been rotated slightly, which is an odd thing to see. I did talk to the author, however, and he said that his version did not have that. So this appears to be a small printing error that my copy had. So that's the way it goes. This is a print-on-demand book, and you're just going to see that sort of thing with print-on-demand, that there's going to be errors that are going to creep in. So your copy, if you buy this, will probably not have this error. I will put a link in the description below if you'd like to see where you can get it. So let's look at what you get inside, and we're going to talk about how this book might be useful for you if you run Dungeon Crawl Classics or if you don't. We start off with a large setting summary with a map of the land of Hubris. So this is the kind of gonzo science fantasy game that we see in Dungeon Crawl Classics, but it's turned up to 11, probably even farther than we see in DCC. It's more adult themed, it's more visceral, as the title says. So keep that in mind when determining if this sort of thing is for you. Wide table of occupations, easily stealable for any sort of campaign. Though a lot of the tables are up to 0 to 60, so it assumes you're going to roll 2 D30s. That's one of the things that I think might hinder non-Dungeon Crawl Classic players from using this, is that a lot of the random tables use the funky dice. So unless you want to substitute other dice for that, which you can, you might have a little bit of trouble. We have a variety of new classes, including the Alchemist, who can create bombs and potions, the Blood Witch, who is of course powered by blood, and can travel into other people's blood and out someone else, so they can teleport through people, which is pretty cool. We have Druids, which Dungeon Crawl Classics did not have before. And they can, of course, turn into animals. We have Shadow Dancers. I'll skip one here. We have Avarians, who are essentially bird people that you can be. In terms of the class, or race as class, which is something that Dungeon Crawl Classics does. Instead of being a Ekrask fighter, you would just be an Ekrask. Ekrask are some sort of lizard. And you have half demons, are all the options available to you. Oh, and Murder Machine. So you can actually be a robot type character. And Mutant. I'm sorry, there's more and more of these. So you get a lot of classes if you play Dungeon Crawl Classics. Mutation powers. This is always great to see. Mutations can be used in any sort of game that you want to have that crazy body morphing a theme to it. And, you know, spells go wrong, your wizard's going to mutate. It's good to have mutations lying around. Let's skip ahead a little bit. Calamitous mutations, a variety of optional rules, plenty of equipment, nothing too extraordinary there. The territories of Hubris. Now this is where things get interesting, because the description of the world is not plotted out in exacting detail. Instead, all of the different regions of the world are organized like this. For example, we have the Blighted Sands. Very short description of it. Then we have the lay of the land. We have a D100 table of all sorts of interesting features you might discover as you travel around this area. You can just roll on them as they travel, and you'll get your locations here, and you can just plop them down on the map, and now they're part of your world. So your world's going to evolve and look different depending on who's playing the game. Within the Blighted Sands, you also have encounters, another D100 table of things that you're going to encounter, making every region of the world different. And then within the Blighted Sands, we have more detailed locations, each with rumors and adventure hooks attached to them. And there's quite a few of these, some of which have more detailed tables or subtables, and some which don't, only have one or two. Now with Bogwood Swamp, again, we do the same thing. Lay of the land, 100 encounters, or a D100 table. Some mushrooms, and then a variety of locations with more details that you can plop down. And this goes on throughout all of the major regions within this world. And this isn't just a couple pages. There was a solid 100 pages of just detailed locations like this. So if you have like a swamp area of your world, you can just take the region from this world that has to do with swamps and steal its encounter table and steal its locations, and you can instantly run it. You can run it as a hex crawl or as a West Marches style game, whatever you want, and all your work is done for you. That's amazing, especially since there are so many different regions in this book that cover so many different types of geography that most worlds that you might come up with are going to find something to use in here. Let's skip ahead. We have the Frozen Wastes, Echo Forests, the Great Plains of Unbidden Sorrow. Everything has very over-the-top sci-fi names. The Mountains That Crawl, the Sea That Runs Red, the Unsettled Expanse. Like I said, this just goes on and on and on. There is so much useful material here that you can use. I would say this is worth it just for these tables alone, given how easy it makes it to run exploration and just overland adventures in general. The next section is the Wizard's Spellbook, and Dungeon Crawl Classics is famous for its spells. But a great thing I like to see is this right here, which allows you to randomly generate your spellbook. Spellbooks have a random cover and an appearance. The appearance is more like a character that's part of the book, because your spellbooks are intelligent and they have weird features. It has its own personality, its own quirks, and some special ability that it gives you. So, and it is divided up by whether you're lawful, neutral, or chaotic. So if you're a wizard, your spellbooks now have unique personalities and are dangerous and can add to the fiction of the game. We have new patron characteristics, and we have a variety of new spells. Spells work just like they do in Dungeon Crawl Classics. You have to roll for your spells, and the better you roll, the better the effect is. Really low ones means the spell doesn't work, you lose the spell, and your patron, whoever that is, inflicts some sort of punishment on you, or perhaps a mutation of some sort. And the higher you roll, the crazier the effects get. We have a variety of new gods. The strange and terrible gods of Hubris. Bailey, the corpulent one. Dralik, the flayer of the flesh. The terrible whisper. And so on and so on and so on. Quite a few of them. We have more tools for the Game Master. Now this is the stuff I like to see because this is very broadly useful for everyone. Ancient and forgotten demigod forms. Create your own gods. Every game needs a table for creating their own deities. And we have all of these tables, and you notice the tables start with D4, D6, D8, D10. So you can just grab your handful of your standard dice, roll them, and then they tell you the results on all of the tables. You don't have to roll the same die over and over. You can just roll a handful of them. We have bandits, brigands, and rapscallions. If you want to create enemy gangs. City district generator. Great if you're having a city campaign. I'm probably going to use a lot of this in the cities that I run in my home games. Diseases of Hubris. Not enough diseases are detailed in D&D, and this helps make up for that. Grave digging. What do you find in the grave? NPC generators. A plane generator. Because in a game like DCC or like Hubris, you're going to be traveling to other dimensions, and you need to know what they look like. And this uses all the funky dice. So D3s, we have D5s, D7s, and so on. So, like I said, some of these might be a little problematic if you don't have the funky dice because you're going to have to substitute them with other dice. But just seeing a book like this actually makes me want to get those weird dice. Just because I'm a completionist and I like my dice. What happens when you make camp? Strange, interesting herbs, taverns and inns. Again, giant pages full of tables where you roll big handfuls of dice to get everything all at once. Let's skip ahead a little bit. Towns and villages, What are in these strange ruins? Magic items. We can generate names of magic items, like the serrated hourglass of the happy princess, or the worthless loom of the rabid god. And we have some pre-made items for you as well that can be stolen pretty much as is for any Dungeons and Dragons like game. Now the art in this is quite good. It varies a lot. There's a number of different artists, some of which I am a big fan of. It has, let me check the artist back at the front again. It has, here we go. Jeremy Duncan, I recognize him. Doug Kovacs, I'm a big fan of his art, and Jason Schultes as well. Great artists, and I like to see their stuff in here. It does remind me of the style from the original Dungeon Crawl Classics book, which is great because it thematically fits, but it has a look all to its own. We have something that's a bit like the Deck of Many Things, I think, but it's done with dice instead. And we have a monster manual, including things that you can use to create your own monsters. What's on the festering dead body? A short bestiary, all of which are appropriately weird and bizarre, including some new dragons. Dragons' names are Malevolence, the Corruptor, Fury, the Blighter, and the Gatherer. And I have seen this before in other old school games where there's a concept that as the dragon gets older and older, its name and its identity becomes more concentrated and it becomes more like a concept than an actual being. And I really like that idea. So ancient dragons are almost just forces of destruction rather than individuals. Goblin clans. Quite a wide variety of monsters that you can use all the way through into the end. The end ends with a chapter 9, which is Adventures. It came from outer space, so it has a level 0 funnel. Dungeon Crawl Classics is famous for its funnels, where you take a wide number, a huge bunch, maybe 4 per player of level 0 characters, and you run them through a crazy, deadly adventure. Most of them all die off, but the ones that survive get to become level 1, and then you start playing those guys. That's very traditional for this type of game, and this comes with a funnel, so you can get started right away. Great map. I love this. And yeah, that's it. With an Appendix N, including the inspirations that you can dig into if you want to learn more about what made Hubris tick, including some RPG books, which I really like to see, and some blogs. And so this is a great introduction to the old school D&D-osphere online in the blogosphere. So some of these are great blogs. Hack and Slash is really great. Jeff's game blog. A lot of these are really prominent and just great for checking out. And there we have it. So that is Hubris. Now, in summation, I'm going to say that if you own Dungeon Crawl Classics, I'm going to say that this is pretty much a must-buy. This is a massive amount of information that you can use to enhance the game that you already have. You can use it as is. You can take bits out of it. You can scramble it up and hack it. It's just wonderful, and just the wealth of goodies that it gives you. And that's true even if you don't play this game. If you just play standard old D&D, or you play any other fantasy adventure, this has so many tools for making especially overland adventure and exploration really useful. So strongly recommended. I'll put the link down in the description. Hubris. Check it out, everyone. Thanks for watching this review. If you'd like to see more of my old school reviews, make sure that you subscribe to the channel and check out the playlist of old school D&D reviews. You can also join me on Patreon right over here if you want to support me making this channel. And thanks to all my patrons who are doing just that. If you know of any other good DCC books, and especially books that provide you with these tools to make game mastering easier, please leave it in the comments below. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you guys later.